Hey guys, it's Miss Sebastian. So we're going to be subtracting mixed numbers with unlike denominators today. So the first thing we need to do is rewrite our problem in vertical form. That just makes it easier for me to look at, so I like to do it this way. If you like to do it from right to left, that is just fine, but this just helps me see what I'm doing a little bit better. So I look for the least common denominator of 2 and 6, and I know that it's 6. So I don't have to change 5, 6 at all, but I do need to change 1/2 to something with a denominator of 6. So to get a denominator of 6, I have to multiply the bottom by 3. If I multiply the bottom by 3, I have to keep it balanced by multiplying the top by 3. 1 times 3 is 3. Okay, so now my problem says 5 and 3 6 minus 3 and 5 6. Well, I know that I cannot subtract 3 minus 5. I'm going to have to borrow. So if I borrow, this becomes 4. And when you're doing place value, you have to borrow 10. Well, in this one, we're going to borrow a whole fraction, so 6 over 6. So this is actually going to be a 9. Because if I add the whole number 1, 6 over 6, plus 3 over 6, I get 9 over 6. Now I can subtract. 9 minus 5 is 4, and 4 minus 3 is 1. Now I can simplify this, divide both the top and the bottom by 2, and get 2/3. So I've got 1 and 2/3 as my answer. Okay, let's look at number 2. 4 and 3/8 minus 2 and 9/16. Well, 8 and 16 both have a least common denominator of 16. So that one's going to stay. The 8 has to be multiplied by 2, so the top does as well. And this one, 6 and 9, you can't subtract 6 from 9. So I'm going to have to borrow again. So this time I'm borrowing 16 over 16 to make that a whole number. So 6 plus 16 gives me 22. So now I could subtract. 22 minus 9 is 13 over 16, and 3 minus 2 is 1. So my answer would be 1 and 13/16. Number 3. Whoops. Ed wrote a book in 1.5 hours. He spent 3/4 of an hour studying a math quiz. How much more time did he spend on the book report? So I have to find my least common denominator for 2 and 4, and that denominator is 4. So I'm going to rewrite it. Okay, I've got to multiply 2 times 2 to get it to 4, so I have to do the same to the top. Okay, I cannot subtract 2/4 minus 3/4, so I'm going to have to borrow. 1 is going to go to 0, and this will be 4/4, so when we add, it's going to be 6/4. So 6/4 minus 3/4 gives me 3/4. Okay, let's look at the next one. 6 and 1/8 minus 2 and 3/4. How long is the string now? So I have to find a common denominator, and that is 8. So I'm going to multiply this by 2. So I get 6. And then I've got 1/8 on top. That stays. Now I need to borrow because 1 minus 6 can't happen. So I'm going to take away from 6, make it 5. The fraction we're adding would be 8 over 8. Okay, it's always the denominator over itself. So I'm going to add 8 to 1, and that's 9. 9 minus 6 is 3. 5 minus 2 is 3. So they have 3 and 3/8 inches of the string left. Okay, number 5. 6 and 1/4 minus 2 3/5. So the first thing we have to do is find a common denominator. I know that common denominator is 20. So I'm going to multiply by the missing numbers. Okay, so I've got 5 over 20 and 12 over 20. I cannot subtract 5 minus 12, so I'm going to have to borrow. This will be 20 over 20, so when I add it, it will be 25. So 25 minus 12 is 13, and 5 minus 2 is 3. So 3 13/20. Okay, this next one we've got 9 8/9 minus 3 3/5. The least common denominator between 9 and 5 is 45. So I have to multiply the 9 times 5, so I have to do the same to the top. And then the 5 I have to multiply by 9 to get it to be 45, so I have to do the same to its top. So 8 times 5 is 40. And 3 times 9 is 27. So now I'm just going to subtract. 40 minus 27 is 13 over 45. And 9 minus 3 is 6. Number 7, I've got 8 3/8 and 2 8/10. Okay, I do see that 8/10 can simplify to 4/5, so I can just mark this out if I wanted to. The least common denominator between 8 and 5 is 40. So I'm going to have to multiply by 5 and multiply by 8. Then I can rewrite 3 times 5 is 15. And 4 times 8 is 32. Okay, then I have to borrow because 15 cannot subtract 32. So I'm adding 40 over 40 here. So 40 plus 15 is 55. So 55 minus 32 is 23. And 7 minus 2 is 5. Okay, the last problem here. A farmer brought 5 3/5 pounds of apples to the market. He sold 2 1/3. How many pounds of apples did he have left? Okay, so we've got 5 and 3. The least common multiple here, or the least common denominator, is 15. So I've got to get both of those to 15. So 5 would have to be multiplied by 3, so does the top. And 3 would have to be multiplied by 5, so does the top. So 9 minus 5 is 4. And 5 minus 2 is 3. And that would be pounds.